Hey, this is Arthur Hill, Chief Technical Strategist at TrendInvestorPro.com. You are tuned into our YouTube channel for our weekly video analysis. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. So last week we talked about the trend composite. I broke down the indicators in the trend composite, showed you the signals and how we can identify uptrends and downtrends using that indicator. StochClose is part of the trend composite, but I use this as a ranking indicator for my ETFs and stocks. So what often happens is you get a number of uptrends out there, but you have to figure out which are the strongest uptrends and which are the weakest and prone to failure. And we can do that by ranking by the StochClose. So today I'm going to explain StochClose and show you how it works. So here is the StochClose indicator, and what it is, it's a 125-day stochastic oscillator based on closing prices. And then I take a 5-day moving average to smooth that indicator out to reduce whipsaws a bit. But the absolute value tells you where the current price is relative to the 6-month range. So if we look at QQQ now, you can see StochClose is at 26.29. So basically we have a 6-month range. So if we go back, 6 months is going to be right around early July, right here. So if you look at the range here since early July, we're in the lower part of that range. And when StochClose goes below 40, that means you're clearly in the lower half of your 6-month range. And that's more a sign of weakness than strength. In contrast, if we go over here to the spring of 2020, and you can see in early June, StochClose was above 90 for QQQ. So it is one of the strongest ETFs in early June based on StochClose because it was green and it was well above 60. It turns green when it gets above 60. And the thing about StochClose is you can use it against other securities or ETFs. For example, the value for QQQ can be compared to the value for another ETF. So I'm going to show FXI, the China iShares large cap ETF. And we can see here StochClose is at 30, but in contrast to QQQ, StochClose has been in the lower half of its range for several months since the spring of 2021. And that means FXI was pretty much relatively weak or in the bottom half of performance for ETFs. And if we go back to June here, if you look at early June, you can see StochClose is in the low 60s. And so if you had an uptrend signal in FXI and QQQ, clearly QQQ would have been the winner because its StochClose was in the 90s, whereas FXI has a StochClose in the 63 area. So it was not as strong. So now let me show you a visual of that 6-month range. And this gray zone here shows the 6-month low, 125-day low, and then the upper line shows the 125-day high. And we've got the QQQ closing price as a gray line, and then the 5-day moving average as a blue line. But you can see as QQQ is moving higher and hitting new highs, it's at the upper end of that 6-month range. And that's why StochClose is in that 90 to 100 area. And then we can see QQ kind of flattens and StochClose kind of moves back towards the 60s area. And the green line on the chart here corresponds to what 60 would be on the StochClose indicator. But you can see QQQ is clearly in the upper half because it's above that green line. And you can see on the StochClose indicator, it's not going below 60. So that's a sign of strength. You're staying in the upper half of that 6-month range until now. We broke below the red line there. That is equivalent of 40 on StochClose. And there you can see StochClose going below 40. But this just gives you a picture of what that range looks like. You can see as the 6-month low starts rising, then you can see that low end of the range starts rising. And so we're just looking at where price is relative to that rolling 6-month, 125-day range. If it's in the upper half, that's more strength than weakness. If it's in the lower half, that's more weakness than strength. And we can take that number and compare it against other ETFs. So now let's look at FXI here. And by the way, I'm looking at this on Amy Broker because this is where I develop and test the indicators. So if we look here at FXI, we can see it did strengthen in July there when StochClose got above 80 and a little more volatile, but holding mostly above 60 into the spring of 2021. And then performance dipped here. And so if you look on the price chart, you can see we're holding that uptrend there and it starts to fade. You get below 40, you're in the lower half of your 6-month range. Again, the gray zone is the 6-month range. So if we put a line there in April, that's the 6-month range, and you're currently in the lower half of that range, and that's more negative than positive. And you can see FXI has remained weak because it remains in the lower half of that 6-month range, and that range is falling because prices are falling, lower lows and lower highs. So sometimes what happens is you get a number of trend signals that are in state. And in state means the signal is already triggered, it's in an uptrend, and you need a way to kind of filter all those uptrend signals and try and find the strongest currently. And I'll give you an example here. Here is copper, CPER. And so it's been in an uptrend via the trend composite since the middle of January. And it's not that strong because if you look at the StochClose indicator, it hasn't gotten really above 60. So it hasn't gotten into the upper half of that 6-month range as far as price is concerned. If you look at the price chart, it's been really flat here. And so this is one that's on a bullish signal, but StochClose is not that strong. So this trend is not looking that strong right now. In contrast, if we look at the livestock ETF, COW, you can see that it's been on an uptrend signal since the 19th of January. And StochClose is well above 60. So this one is much stronger. And if we just look on the price chart here, we can see these highs from April and June, and we're coming very close to those highs. And so if we go back 6 months to say July, that's why StochClose is in the upper 90s, because we're near a 6-month high. Now keep in mind, StochClose, it's 125 days. It's smooth with a 5-day moving average. That's why it's not at 100 now. But the fact that it's at 96 tells you you're very close to a 6-month high. So COW is definitely stronger than CPER, copper. So over at trendinvestorpro.com, I track the trend composite signals for 250 plus ETFs that are part of the master ETF list. And I also rank those ETFs by the StochClose value. So you can see the strongest ETFs in the market. And so here's this table that is available to subscribers. It's updated on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I went ahead and updated it on Wednesday. And so what we can do here is we can sort first by name. If you just want a top-down sort and see the major index ETFs at the top, the style ETFs then, momentum, volatility, value, growth, etc. And then, of course, we have the sectors and then the industry groups. Then we get into bonds and commodities and currencies. Got it all here. So what we can do here is we can sort by that column to get a top-down sort. We can sort by the StochClose value. And you can see the ones at the top are the strongest here. And no surprise here, commodities. The DBC commodity ETF, DBE energy, soybeans, RYE equal weight energy, XLE, of course, the energy SPDR, corn, natural resources. It's all about energy here. Colombia is also up there, GXG with a StochClose of 93. And there you can see the trend composite score and if it's in an uptrend or not. So if you're looking for stocks that are in uptrends, or ETFs in this case, you can see you can sort by the trend, and then you can see the StochClose there. So what I can do is I can do a double sort. So I can hold down the shift key here, and I will sort by the trend. And I've got uptrend here, and then I will sort by the StochClose value. So now I've got all the uptrends ranked by StochClose values. And you can see the dollar is also strong. So how about that? Commodities and the dollar strong. Just means you got to pay attention to the price charts and what's going on with the individual ETF and put these intermarket relationships on the back burner. So we can also look at the recent trend signals here. There is one new uptrend in palladium, which had a big move. StochClose is not very high at 71. A lot of new downtrends, and this is over the past 5 trading days. And then there is a link on the right if you want to see a sharp chart with corresponding indicators for these ETFs. But let's look at palladium just for grins. So here is palladium with the trend composite turning bullish there 4 days ago as palladium broke above these highs here with a big move. It's moved from, say, 150 to 220. That's up almost 50% in less than 2 months. It's a humongous move, but it is a trend-changing move and a breakout there. And if we go back, you can see in August when palladium broke support here, the trend composite turned bearish, and that ushered in this downtrend. So if we look at where palladium is now, StochClose is in the low 70s. And that is because if we go back, here is the July high, basically. And so the 6-month range is going to be, and this is closing prices, that's why I'm not using that spike low. So this is the 6-month range here. And you can see we're in the upper half, but we're still a ways from hitting a 6-month high. So that's why the StochClose is around 70 right now. So it's strong, but it's not one of the strongest out there right now. I would also note that palladium is a bit overbought after a 50% advance. And so it might be prudent to wait for a pullback within this uptrend. And next week, I'm going to introduce the momentum composite, which aggregates signals in 5 momentum indicators to look for pullbacks within a bigger uptrend. Now, if you're interested in these indicators for Trend Investor Pro, there's a plugin icon on the bottom right. And if you click on that, there you can see the Trend Investor Pro Indicator Edge plugin. So you can click that to learn more about it. And then over on the upper left, you can see here down at the bottom now, there are the 11 indicators that are part of the package. And if you click on that Trend Investor Pro link for the plugins, there's also a link to a video where I explain these indicators and how to use them. So if you'd like to know more about trendinvestorpro.com, you can click on the link in the description below. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and consider subscribing. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll talk to you again next week. Have a great day.